Okay, it's my 34th birthday today, and I've just watched one of my favorite films. And this is a film I came across last year, which I'd actively looked for. It's not a very well known film. I mean, I don't think it's a household name. And on one hand, that's really unfortunate because this is a really, really good film. On the other hand, I kind of like the fact that it's not that well known because it kind of gives it more of a unique quality. It makes it all the more special in some ways. So the film is Somewhere in Time, and it stars Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. It's described as a romantic science fiction drama film, and it's directed by, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, I've practiced a few times, the French director Gino Schwark. Um, and it's based on a 1975 novel, Bedtime Return, by Richard Matheson. So I'm just going to run down the plot of the film. There are some differences, I should say, between the book and the film. I'll come to that in a minute, but I'll run through the plot and then explain why I like this film so much. So basically, young actor, 1971. He's at the Mayfield College, or the Millfield College, I should say, which is I believe it's in Los Angeles, somewhere like that. Anyway, he's just sort of celebrating a play with his friends afterwards, and an elderly lady comes up to him, and she hands him a very decorative pocket watch, and simply says, "Come back to me." And he's totally confused by this. He doesn't know who she is. Then it pans forward. It shows the elderly lady in fine clothes going back to her place. And then it pans forward 9 years to 1980. He's in Chicago, and he's got something of writer's block. He's writing a screenplay for a play, or he's a playwright at this point, and he's got writer's block, so he decides to go to the famous Grand Hotel on Lake Mackinac in Michigan for a retreat to kind of escape from things. Whilst there, he comes across a portrait. The hotel, being it is a famous hotel, has a little museum room, and he comes across a famous portrait of a stunningly beautiful woman, and he's very intrigued by this, and he decides to do some research at the local library with the help of the porter, who's now an elderly man. Um, and he discovers that the lady in the picture is one Elise McKenna, who was a renowned stage actress at the turn of the century. So he asks the porter, played by, let me just get this correct, uh, Arthur, and that role's played by Bill Irwin, elderly bellhop, I should say. He asks who the lady is, and he explains who she is, and he does more research, and he discovers an older picture of her, and it's the very lady that handed him the watch. So this, of course, makes him very intrigued. Um, and he begins to get interested in time travel, and he decides to consult one of his professors from his high school years, played by George Voskovich in one of his last roles. And he mentions that once in Paris, he believed he temporarily, for a very brief moment, got into a sort of time slip. I mean, if you're interested in the subject of time slips, this is a great film. And he argued that it's intensely focusing on place and time, convincing yourself, almost like self hypnosis, that you can actually transport yourself in time. So he mentioned that once in a very old hotel in Paris, he believed he'd done that. Anyway, um, the character played by Christopher Reeve, Richard Collier, does this in his hotel room, and he initially gets rid of all the modern things, and he does this over and over and over again until he's physically exhausted. Then finally he realizes this is not working because he's using a modern recording device. So he gets rid of that. intensely concentrates, and he is finally brought back to 1912. Um, and so he's in this hotel, same place, but different time. And he's rented a Edwardian costume, which actually turns out to be slightly older, out of date. So everyone, he already stands out slightly. Nevertheless, he's seen as a little bit of a misfit because he's a little bit erratic, and obviously he really wants to find this actress. And he does finally come across her, but their moment is briefly interrupted by her manager, played by Christopher Plummer. Now, this manager is a very overprotective figure, some would say controlling, and he kind of serves as the antagonist in the film, so to speak. And it later transpires the reason for his hostility to Richard is because he feels that this young man will ruin her career as the greatest actress of the day. But basically, over this brief period of time, and he checks the registry books to make sure that it's meant to be that his name is in the right place. In fact, I should say he checked that before he done the time slip in the archives to make sure that he was registered there, and indeed he was. So basically, they fall in love despite the antagonism of her manager, and at one point he even tries to sabotage. I should say there's spoilers here. He even tries to sabotage their relationship by getting Richard Collier roughed up, tied up in a shed, but he wakes up and they get reunited and they make love. And unfortunately, the spell is broken when he's describing. She's sort of saying the first thing she will do is get me a new suit, and he's sort of explaining how many benefits the suit has, how it has extra pockets and so on, and he brings out a coin, 1979. Unfortunately, this then rips him out of this state of illusion, and he's brought back to 1980, and he desperately tries to get back. Elise McKenna had sort of watched as he disappeared, and it's a bit difficult to explain. But basically, he then becomes very weak, very drained, and he eventually fades away. Um, and the elderly bellhop at that point, I should mention, in the 1912 scenario, was a young boy, child. Okay, that's the. I'm not very good, I must admit, at doing synopsis rundowns. It's check out the Wikipedia article. Um, like I say, the film's directed by Chinot Schwark. There is a superb soundtrack by John Barry, which is Sergei Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody in a Theme of Paganini. Um, the film budgeted 4 million and it made a box office of 9.7 million, so it certainly wasn't a flop. But unbelievably, it got no Academy nods whatsoever, and I just find that a travesty. I don't know if there's such a thing as a perfect film, but this comes pretty damn close. It is just such a, to me anyway, such a beautiful, moving film. It is just so well made, beautiful. It's not excessively long. It's about an hour and a half, but it has that kind of star-crossed lover thing, like Jack and Rose and Titanic. But it's anyone that's interested in the concept of time travel, of time slips, and of love. It's just and I have to say, perfect casting. Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour really had good chemistry, and when he passed away, Jane Seymour revisited the Grand Hotel, and so did all the cast. That was quite a big, moving thing. Um, check this film out. It's a gem. It's a film that you need to see. It really is, and I cannot fathom how it didn't get more attention. But in a sense, I like the fact that it didn't because it makes it all the more special for those of us who know about it. And it has kind of got something of a, I don't want to say cult following, but huh, reviews were scathing at the time, apparently, which is just a reminder to me of why I don't listen to critics. Seriously, um, check out the film. Now, it is based on a novel, like I said, and there's some differences in the novel. In the novel, he goes back in time from 1971 to 1896, and the setting is California as opposed to Michigan. But this is actually quite a famous hotel. It's been the retreat of presidents and others. It's definitely a film that's worth seeing um, in its own right. I just cannot comprehend how it didn't get any Academy nods whatsoever. It's a strange old world, but it's I can't praise it highly enough. I love this film, and honestly, it's there's not many films that when I see them for the first time they really hit me, and I think, whoa. That's... Some people, well, I'm not even going to say it. Check out this film, Somewhere in Time. It's a beautiful film. It's near perfect.